Have you ever wondered why some women walk away from the ashes of heartbreak not weaker, but more radiant than ever before? It is because the destruction that was meant to silence them only awakened what lay hidden inside, the forgotten fire of the soul. She did not leave because she was defeated. She did not walk away in shame. She ascended like a phoenix rising from her own shadow, because the woman who confronts her pain cannot be chained by it. For years, she played the role the world demanded. The smiling mask, the obedient voice, the selfless giver who poured and poured until her own cup was bone dry. People praised her for being good, but good was simply another word for silent. Beneath her calm eyes, the unconscious stirred, carrying every unspoken truth, every desire denied, every scream swallowed just to keep the peace. Carl Jung called it the shadow, the parts of the self exiled into darkness, and it was there her real power waited, not in the perfection she performed, but in the chaos she suppressed. Every time she held back her anger, every time she denied her worth, every time she allowed love to mean sacrifice, the shadow grew heavier, until life itself forced her to descend and meet it face to face. The descent was not graceful. It came through betrayal, rejection, and heartbreak. It came through the shattering of illusions she thought would last forever. But in that breaking she discovered something profound. The shadow was not her enemy. It was her missing half. The fire she was taught to fear was the very fire that could set her free. And so she rose, not loud, not desperate, not in vengeance, but with a stillness that unsettled everyone who once took her for granted. They said she changed. They whispered she was cold now, distant now. But the truth was simple. She was no longer playing small. Do you feel it? That trembling in your own heart as the C words echo? That is your shadow calling. That is the part of you that refuses to be silenced any longer. Because you were not born to beg. You were not born to be chosen. You were born to rise into the fullness of who you are. And so when she walked away, the world thought she left, but in truth, she ascended. When a woman begins to awaken, the world around her trembles. Those who once thrived on her silence feel exposed. Those who depended on her sacrifice now call her selfish. The men who admired her obedience suddenly label her too much. But what they cannot understand is that she has stepped into a new realm, the realm of sovereignty. For the first time, she sees clearly. Love that demands her to shrink is not love, it is control. Friendship that thrives on her pain is not friendship, it is dependency. A life lived only for others is not virtue, it is slow death. And in this clarity, her heart no longer seeks permission, it beats for her own soul. Carl Jung spoke of individuation, the process of becoming whole by integrating both light and shadow. She embodies this now, no longer only the nurturing, patient, forgiving side that society applauds, but also the fierce, the ambitious, the untamed side that was locked away. She wears them both, and in this union she is complete. Do you feel the weight of these words pressing against you? Because deep inside, you too have denied parts of yourself to be accepted. You too have smiled when your soul wanted to scream. You too have given more than you could bear, hoping someone would finally see your worth. But the truth is brutal and liberating. No one can give you what you refuse to give yourself. And so she no longer begs, she no longer explains, she no longer bleeds to prove her value. She simply exists in her wholeness, and that existence itself is power. Power not to dominate, but to be unshakable. Power not to control, but to remain untouched by control. They say she became hard, but no, she became soft in the places that mattered. Soft with her own heart, gentle with her own dreams, tender with her own wounds. The hardness they see is simply the boundary that says, you cannot take from me what I no longer give. And in this silence, in this unshakable calm, she ascends, not away from love, but toward a love that honors her soul, not away from life, but toward a life that feels like truth. She rises, and the world watches in awe, unable to grasp how the woman they once underestimated has become untouchable. She did not leave. She transcended. There is a silence more powerful than any storm, the silence of a woman who has finally seen herself. Not the self others told her to be, not the mask that won applause, but the raw and unpolished truth of her being. That silence is dangerous because it cannot be manipulated. It carries the weight of clarity. Once she measured her worth by how much she was needed. She poured her strength into those who only drank without giving. She mistook sacrifice for love, endurance for loyalty, and her exhaustion for proof of devotion. But a heart that always bleeds becomes a graveyard for its own dreams, and she refused to die in pieces any longer. Jung said, "The privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are." And she took that privilege fiercely. She gathered every broken fragment, every scar, every humiliation, and instead of hiding them, she wore them like armor. The very wounds that once shamed her became the map of her rebirth. Do you feel that ache in your chest? That is recognition, because part of you knows you, too, have lived under the weight of masks. You, too, have been praised for your silence while your soul screamed for freedom. And you, too, have the same choice she had, to remain in the prison of approval or to ascend into the dangerous beauty of truth. They will not applaud this choice. They will resist it, mock it, even hate it, because a free woman holds up a mirror exposing the chains others still carry. But she does not bend to their discomfort. She does not return to her cage to make them feel safe. Instead, she walks with a calm so unshakable it terrifies those who once thought they owned her. This is not rebellion for its own sake. It is not bitterness, it is reclamation. She does not seek to dominate anyone. She simply refuses to abandon herself again. That refusal is her power. That refusal is her ascension. And in the quiet glow of her becoming, she realizes she was never too much. She was never wrong to feel deeply, to want fiercely, to demand more. The lie was never hers, it was theirs. She did not leave, she rose. There is a moment when the cage door swings open, and she realizes it was never locked. All along, the chains that bound her were illusions, stitched together from fear, guilt, and the hunger for approval. The moment she chooses herself, those chains fall silent, and the world that once controlled her no longer has power. For so long, she believed love meant endurance. She believed loyalty meant abandoning her own needs. She believed worth was measured by how much pain she could survive, but survival is not living. And she was not born merely to endure, she was born to rise. The world may never understand her. They will say she became cold, they will call her untouchable. But the truth is simple. She is finally untouchable not because she hardened, but because she softened to herself. She chose to love her own soul more than the illusion of approval. And so the woman who once begged now chooses. The woman who once wept now reigns. The woman who once hid now stands in her full light, unafraid, unashamed, unstoppable.